I didn't expect to do anything with farming. I worked at the farm when I was a little kid and was like, nope, agriculture, not me. I'm going to start companies. I planted all kinds of edible plants. And of course, being an entrepreneur, I was like, how can I make money doing this? I tend to try to specialize in bigger fruiting trees. I tailor our business to wealthier, older clients who want fruit now. Some people, if they start with something that's fruiting, then that gets them excited enough to keep going. But the only reason citrus is even really around today at all is because they cloned good varieties that didn't taste sour and terrible. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today.
Our potential, it's exponential.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Abundant Souls. And today I have a very special guest, Andrew with Froot Farms. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. Thanks for driving.
Yeah, it was a little drive.
So tell us about Froot Farms. How'd you guys get started?
So my family has a farm in Christmas, Florida, which is in East Orlando. So they've been farming before that even, but that our current location, my family's been there since 1999. So I'm the third generation. My grandfather started it with my uncle.
He bought it in Christmas, Florida in 1999.
115 acres of land. Well, he bought 135 acres of land. He sold 20, but he bought 135 acres of land in Christmas, Florida, because he had smaller nurseries and he wanted to expand the production. So they mainly grew really, really big palm trees and oak trees, and they wanted to have more space to do that, basically. So they were growing all these ornamental plants, and that business continued and had been going on for pretty much ever since then. But then in 2019, they had leased some land at the front of the property to another company, and they were going out of business. So they had sable palms, which is a Florida native palm, and my uncle wanted to buy out their inventory. So Greg asked my other uncle, Jay, for an investment, and Jay said, okay, I'll invest the money to buy them out and basically start this new company, which became our main farm venture, Lightstream Farms. And so that's a commercial, wholesale only palm tree nursery that sells regenerated sable palms. So we cut off the heads when they dig these trees out of the swamp, all the roots die, and then we regenerate the roots so that when they put them on a landscape job next to a pool or bring it in with a crane, that the trees don't die. So we take all the dead loss at our farm so that landscapers don't have to go back in and fix it later.
Interesting.
And
they bring it to you when they're getting rid of them, and you'll regenerate.
We buy them from people who dig them out native, since they grow native here, and then we sell them mainly in Florida, but also a lot in North and South Carolina. It's South Carolina state tree. It's Florida state tree. Yeah, it's South Carolina state tree, but it's not native there. It's native here.
The sable palm.
Yeah, so they
it's
buy
on
it
their
from
flag, right?
Yeah. It's definitely important to them.
But dude, enough about palms. So you're saying you bought the inventory, all the palms. You and Jay, your family, you're selling the palms. And how do you get into fruits? Like, you guys are selling fruit trees too?
So basically, I came with the investment. So I worked in the technology company. I went to school for marketing at UF, and I didn't expect to do anything with farming. I worked at the farm when I was a little kid and was like, nope, agriculture, not me. I'm going to start companies.
Yeah.
I was always entrepreneurial, and I like writing. So I started a board game and comic book company, and that was going to be my thing. And so Jay asked me to come over to the farm for 2 months to start the initial investment and work with my uncle Greg. I really liked working with Greg and realized that I wanted to be out there, and I liked being in nature. I liked being outside of my office and was like, nope, I'm never going back to my office again. So I got out of the office and was like, I'm staying here. But I had inherited a house at that point in time when my dad passed away, and I was redoing all the landscaping and was like, why the heck would I take time to take care of all this stuff that produces nothing? So I started growing. So I planted all kinds of edible plants. And of course, being an entrepreneur, I was like, how can I make money doing this? So I started a nursery using the fact that we had the land already and kind of was doing it on the side. until about March of this year, I decided to expand the nursery and got into edible landscaping and have been growing it kind of since then.
Amazing. And when was that?
That was March of this year is the first time we opened the nursery for like normal business hours or anything. So we've been kind of in business for less than a year, actually, like trying to sell plants and stuff. I was just selling them on Facebook Marketplace, like when I needed money to buy soil or whatever.
Starting out the last year or two.
Yeah.
But you've been growing them out, and now you're like a retail spot for fruit trees.
Yeah. So we get in a lot of stuff from other companies, but we also obviously have the land and space. So we're growers as well. So growing out thousands of plants right now and doing a lot more with grafting various fruit trees and making multi-grafted trees. That's kind of something that I'm working hard towards growing. I want to be the source for a lot of bigger fruit trees because we have the land and a lot of nurseries aren't able to stock things like 45 plus gallon big fruiting mangoes and avocados and that sort of thing. So we're trying to do that. And then I also know that a lot of people don't make multi-grafted trees. So I want to have loquats that have 4 or 5 varieties and just sell that as kind of a standard thing that our nursery does that other nurseries don't. So if people want to come to us, they can get weird stuff that they can't get anywhere else.
That's a good idea.
That's
like special,
I think so.
Multi-grafted, like everything.
Everything. So
cool.
So I started doing multi-graft Chapotacaba in March when I really started because I like Chapotacaba too much. And so I basically was like, how can I make this Chapotacaba habit into something cool?
Yes.
So I got a 30-gallon Sabra that I had and basically started grafting it. And now it's at 15 varieties that have been grafted onto it at this point,
15.
including 14 grafted varieties plus Sabra.
Gotcha.
But they haven't all taken. I think we're at 12 or 13 that have taken.
Wow. So you have 15 varieties of Chapotacaba. Yeah.
I have a lot more than that, but on that one tree, I have 15. My goal is to get it to 20, and then I'll stop. I don't want it to get crazy out of hand. Each variety is different. Some are more vigorous than others, and then also the leaf structures are different, so it's really
Big
cool.
time.
There's one called Sapu Kaya, and it gets really pretty pink new growth. And then there's one called Spirito that gets really like darker flushes. So I put them right on the side of each other to have all the different colors on the same tree. I think it's going to look really cool. So.
The new growth. I want to write these down. Sapu, what was that?
Sapu Kaya.
I wanted one of those, man.
They're
Jeez.
pretty.
They're pretty?
Yeah, I like them a lot. There's a lot of really cool varieties.
What's your favorite Chapotacaba?
My favorite for eating that I've had so far, I like red Chapotacaba a lot. So I grow a lot of those and have a lot of big ones. But I like almost all of them. I'll eat Sabra all day for sure. I have some big fruiting trees that I use for seed stock. And I'm like, oh, dang, I have to eat all these Chapotacaba so I can get the seeds. Oh, well, I'll do that.
Do you know like John Morton or any of those guys?
Yeah. So John Morton lives 30 minutes from us. So John helped me get into it for sure, and I buy a lot of trees from him.
He's an OG, I remember meeting him.
My multi-graft started with him, so he did a grafting class at the farm to really get me into grafting Chapotacaba, and he brought scions from Spirito, Ruby Honey, Scarlet, and a few others, and I grafted those on it, and that was like the initial grafts, and then I just kept it going. So now it has all kinds of stuff as Trunciflora and Paulista and all these rare varieties, and so it's getting cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah. So how does that work? Because you're up in the cold. Is it affected? Like you have to think about it more.
So I have to get frost cloth for some things. So there's some things that can't handle the cold as well, but for the most part, Central Florida only gets cold for so many days of the year. So for the most of the year, it's no different. And then a few days a year, I have to be extra cautious and protect things better. But
it's not too much to think about. You have mangoes and stuff.
Yeah. So I spend a lot of money on frost cloth. So that's the thing.
Got it. So how do you use that on your trees?
Frost cloth is basically kind of like a blanket. It insulates the plant, but it also lets water and sunlight through. So it's better than a blanket in that regard. And so heavier weight frost cloth can basically get the interior temperature of the structure you build to be like 6 to 8 degrees warmer than it would be on the outside air, so you can protect the stuff. So the coldest we've ever got since I've worked and lived at the farm is 25 degrees. So if it can, so that's pretty bad. I killed a little Japoda cob I put in the ground at the front of our property because it was like in the wide open. It's like my trial demonstration field where I'm just sort of like, good luck. I put the trees there. I'm like, if you can make it, then it proves that I can do this in other areas that are better on the property.
You want to push your trees to see if they could do it too.
Yeah,
I agree.
I trial stuff. So
your trial section.
I do it with a few different sections, but yeah, I'll trial random things to see if they'll work in our different microclimates that I build around the property. So my uncle had planted oaks in one section, and a few of them didn't sell, and so now there's like this giant oak canopy, and so I plant some weird tropical stuff in there because it doesn't get frost.
That makes
because
a ton
of the
of
oak
sense.
canopy. So I've planted some citrus in there, which didn't do as well as I was hoping. But the other stuff, the tropical stuff, I have all kinds of grumichama growing. They're like the happiest ever in there. So there's some cool stuff.
Dude, it's because of the oak canopy.
Yeah. So when we get our winter, the frost gets taken by the oak canopy, so it kind of sits up there instead of going on the young trees below it. So the canopy helps insulate it for sure.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Do you have any cool achachas or stuff like that?
I've tried some of them. They die back every year, even if I keep them in protected areas. It's hard to keep them. I had a raza, and they die back every year, but I baby them the rest of the year and they come back. So I have some that are flowering and fruiting right now, and I'm like, just hang on for a little while longer. I can try the fruit finally.
Yeah, exactly. You need several seasons for it to fruit.
Yeah.
People don't know it's not like you plant it. It's like, fruit's the next day. They got to establish. They got to, flower, then fruit.
Yeah, so it takes a little time. So I have some stuff that's starting to get to that stage where it's fruiting now, and rare tropical stuff that I have to protect in the winter.
Nice.
So I have to protect it extra hard this year so that I can get some fruit from them.
Yes, because it's supposed to be a cold year, they're saying, right?
Yeah, I never trust any of that. Yeah. I don't know. I just assume it's going to be a cold year every year.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to have to throw this frost cloth on heavy.
Yeah, cool. So you have frost cloth on deck.
Yep, I order that pretty much in the summer when no one else is ordering it.
Got you.
Yeah, I tend to buy that like cold protection stuff when other people aren't buying it, because during the winter when people want it, it's really hard to get it. Mm-hmm. So people run out, so I buy it way early.
Do you hold on? Do you have like Adamoyas or anything, like Anonas?
Yeah, I have big Adamoyas. I haven't taken them through the winter yet. So I've been grafting cherry moya this year, but I had only ever seen them through winter as cherry moya. So I've never seen Adamoya through the winter. So we'll see. I have some big 25 gallons I bought, and they're like 7 or 8 feet tall now. They're huge.
Cool.
So
you have big trees at your place. It sounds like.
I tend to try to specialize in bigger fruiting trees. So I tailor our business predominantly to wealthier, older clients who want fruit now.
Got you.
So I do a lot with that. So since we, have planted palm trees forever, we're kind of equipped to deal with bigger stuff. So. Right now, I'm doing everything like by hand, so I'm doing mainly like 25 and 45 gallons, but trying to get equipment because, like I said, we have experience planting 30-foot palm trees on our own property. So if I can get the equipment for Froot Farms, then I can plant some big stuff.
Cool, yeah, for your fruit tree project.
Yeah,
got it.
Whereas most fruit tree people aren't able to do that. We've just done landscaping and growing for so long that we have experience with larger stuff and aren't as afraid of it as probably other people are.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. Yeah, so with machines and stuff like that, you're saying, and just doing it right. Yeah. And because and by the way, that's smart. And there's someone else, this guy D's Trees down south. Yeah, you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him. I sold him, or I forget. We met recently, and Anyways, he does the same thing. Bigger
Yep.
trees, like clients who want fruit right now, the best of the best.
They exist for
Yeah,
sure.
and I get calls like that too, but I'm kind of like, oh, I don't keep that stuff in stock. Same thing.
Well, yeah, most people don't have the space. So like I said, because our property is so large, I can handle growing and stocking stuff like that.
Amazing.
Whereas most people wouldn't be able to, and I'm not afraid of manhandling big trees.
Yeah, but here's the thing. What would is the whole like, oh, it's better to plant smaller size trees. What's your thoughts on that? Even like, should you still but you have to wait with smaller trees. But it's better for the tree. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree? Yeah.
No. So I mean, I've planted palm trees. I think
Dustin said the same exact thing, by the way.
So
he was like, it doesn't matter as much.
So I think it matters if you let a tree get root bound. So if you don't pot it up, then yes.
So explain yourself on that.
So if you plant a tree in a 45-gallon pot and you aren't good at selling it, and it sits there for 2 years.
For 3 years. Exactly.
And it's, you got the root spiraling around the container. No good. That tree will definitely do worse than if you had just planted a small tree. But if you can handle potting stuff up, so a lot of nurseries can't. So the big problem, I think, is that a lot of nurseries will buy in 3 gallons from Pine Island and Record Buck and all the main ones.
Yeah.
And then they try to sell it as that size because they don't have any soil, they don't do any, potting up. And then if they don't sell it, then it just sits in that container and spirals.
Yeah.
So that can happen with small trees just as easy as it could happen with large trees. It's just about taking care of the tree and knowing when you have to put it in a bigger pot and not letting it get out of hand, essentially.
That's a good point, man. So it's not as much as, because I've always thought like, it's better to do smaller trees, get them going so the roots could go. But you're saying because every root system, like the roots have to match the top.
Yeah.
So if there's no space, it's insane, So, but most people don't know there's like a time cycle, right? That it could be in the pot. So you're supposed to tune into that as a nursery, yeah?
Yeah, so I feel like if you tune into that and you pot stuff up as it needs, and there's certain things that don't need it as much. So like a mango gets a big taproot, so that matters a lot. Whereas Japotocaba, their root systems are pretty shallow anyways. So that staying in a pot, that's why people keep them in pots long term. So it doesn't matter as much with a Japotocaba, but would matter a lot more if I put a mango in a 10-gallon pot and just leave it there forever. It's gonna root spiral and it's gonna be a less healthy tree whether I plant it
or jackfruit
or whatever. Yeah. So and
So
anything
it's the type of tree too. You're saying.
Yeah. So I bought persimmons from nurseries before, and the root is just around the whole container 8 times because they get big tap roots, and most nurseries put them in pretty shallow pots, and they kind of need to be in big deep pots even when they're in their smaller sizes. So a lot of people don't do that right, and then you get root bound trees, whether it's a 3-gallon or a 45-gallon.
That's a really good point, man. Yeah. How much space is your spot nursery? What's your footprint nursery at your site?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
We have plants everywhere. I have a shade house where I grow all the little plants, and then I move them to like by my house. So we have a ton of deer and like every nature thing you can imagine. So things like avocados, deer love to eat their leaves. So I have to have them in a blocked area. So right now, the only area that I had that was blocked, like I said, I started in March, like actually selling, and we grew way faster than I thought I would. So it was kind of like I needed to use what I had now. So I am building a nursery at the front of our property that's going to be a few acres. But that nursery space right now doesn't have a fence, so I can't put anything there. So I have the ground cover laid. I have it kind of ready, but until the fence is up, I have to have everything by my house where there was already an existing fence. And then I just filled in that space so fast. It was a big garden area, but I filled it in so fast that then I was like, oh, I can't fit 45 gallons in here. So anything that the deer won't mess with, like big mangoes, are all outside the fence. And then they don't mess with Japotocaba. So I have 2 big oaks, and I have them under those oaks, thousands of them. And
you build, you got to build into each space. You're building a new 2-acre nursery in the front.
Yeah, so we're doing that, and then I'm trying to
Cool.
expand. We currently have this little like hoop house, and I'm trying to expand that area because I can fit like maybe 3 to 5 thousand little plants, so seed trays and 1 gallons and that sort of thing. And I'm trying to expand that to
Protect them a little more.
yeah, I'm trying to produce at least like 5 to 10 thousand plants a year for the nursery side of things. So
I love it.
so I'm retail and wholesale, so I'm starting to do a lot more wholesale stuff. So since we've already done that for palm trees, might as well do it for fruit trees. And
I'm
there's
here
not
for
too
it.
many. There's not too many people in our area. Like Central Florida doesn't have a lot of wholesalers for any trees, but particularly fruit trees.
Cool, man.
So trying to expand that market.
I love it, dude. Where can people find you, by the way?
I'm on everything as Froot Farms.
He's
so,
on everything. Hit him up if you
yeah.
want fruit trees.
Yeah.
Orlando area?
Yep.
Sick.
I do, like I said, delivery and installation stuff as well. So people want installs. I tend to stick to Orlando-ish area, but I go throughout Central Florida for bigger jobs. So,
Cool. Yeah, man. I mean, I love it because people need like guides like you to, a lot of people buy the fruit tree and don't know what to do.
yeah.
But if you have a guide like you, it could be on that rhymed.
Yeah.
But that could be like, just a better success story. Right?
And I, like I said, part of why I do the larger trees too is I think that ease matters a lot. So the less obstacles you put in people's way, the more likely they are to get in tune with something. So I think that one of the biggest problems for people eating healthy is that the systems aren't in place for them to get it easily. So there's too many barriers. If you eliminate some of those barriers, so if you're growing the fruit in your backyard, it's a lot, or say oregano or basil, it's a lot easier to go grab that from your backyard instead of having to drive to the store to get it if you forgot it, and just eliminate it from a recipe. Whereas if it's growing in your backyard, you can just go grab it. And so getting people in tune and understanding the pride and all the good things that come from growing the food yourself, and knowing that there's no chemicals on it and that it's nutritious, and also getting things I really like are the things that you can't find in grocery stores, the things that I wouldn't be able to eat otherwise. Like I love chipotle cava, but I'm not gonna find that at Publix. So
No.
I'm gonna grow that one myself. Some things that are more accessible in grocery stores, I grow less of just because of that. Because there is a huge barrier to getting chipotle cava or the rarer fruits. You have to find all these niche markets and fruit sellers that sell on a smaller scale. You can't just go to a traditional grocery store to get that stuff. So eliminating that barrier by growing the stuff yourself obviously is important.
But yeah, that's a good point where you're saying the ease of them achieving that. Ease of it.
So some people, if they start with something that's fruiting or close to fruiting, then that gets them excited enough to keep going. Whereas a lot of people, if they don't get that instant gratification, might just quit.
It's interesting what you're saying, dude. Yeah. Like 3 or 4 years for avocados are kind of a big deal. It's a long time.
So if you're into it, so like when I had my house, I didn't have a ton of money. I was planting 3 gallons, but I planted a mango 3 years ago, and it kept dying back a little bit with each frost, and it never fruited for me. So I was waiting all that time. But if I had bought a big one that was already fruiting, maybe I would have done a lot more to protect it, and there would have been a lot more, care there. I mean, I definitely cared for it, but especially people that aren't into it as much, who are just starting and they like the idea of growing their own food, getting the instant gratification. And that's why I think annual vegetable gardens help that too, because then they get more instant gratification.
Exactly.
But I do all the perennial stuff, so that's why I think the big fruit trees are good. Because then they get that instant gratification, they get excited about it, and then hopefully they buy more trees, and keep growing, and
bigger trees, quicker harvest.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be every tree, So sometimes they'll buy one big mango and then get a lot of small stuff.
Facts.
But get that one big tree that gets them excited, so that they take care of all of them, So that's part of kind of my sales pitch with people is like, especially like chipotle cava, they take so long to fruit. So getting something that is 12 years old, might mean that they take care of it and care, whereas maybe they buy a 3-gallon and it takes them 10 years to fruit and they don't remember and they never water and the tree dies.
So Andrew, you do cocktail fruit trees. Tell us about like that process and grafting.
Yeah,
Trees.
so I'm kind of newer to grafting, so our family's propagated stuff forever. So I started when I was doing Froot Farms. I had a little semi greenhouse that part of the roof had fallen off, and I was just using that to propagate like mulberries and stuff from cuttings, and
Nice.
growing a lot of stuff from cuttings and seeds and whatnot. And I still do some of that, but now I'm doing a lot more with air layering and grafting. And so grafting, for people who aren't familiar with the process, it's basically taking good plant genetics and incorporating it into another tree and tricking it into believing that it's a better version of itself.
For real.
Positive
But, like, what is
affirmation.
that?
Yeah, helping the
Wow.
tree manifest its best form, I guess.
The most quality and delicious and productive
exactly.
genetics it
So-
could be.
So for like Japodocaba, so say I take a Sabra, and Sabras take sometimes 12 to 15 years to fruit. So I have this big tree on my porch that wasn't doing anything. I can graft a scarlet or a red. Those varieties tend to fruit a lot faster. So 3 to 5 years versus 10 to 15. So those ones being that they take a lot sooner to produce fruit, and you get more of that instant gratification like we talked about.
Right.
So
but what is what is that process doing that?
yeah,
Getting that
absolutely. So
quicker fruiting tree.
So now we've established that we want that the red and the scarlet fruit faster. Of course, we want that instead
Yes.
of the Sabra, and Sabras are great. But so say we take that Sabra, and you can cut off a branch, and there's many different forms of grafting. So the main one that I use is going to be cleft grafts. So cleft grafts, you take a branch, you cut it off, you take a branch off of the tree that you want the genetics from, and you cut it off. That new branch that you just cut off from the preferable tree will become a scion. So when you term it a scion, you cut off all the leaves, you wrap it in some sort of tape normally. So I use buddy tape is what it's called. And so then you wrap that, and basically you form a union with the initial tree and the scion at the cambium layer. So the cambium layer is the inner part of the tree that has it's the little green layer that shows the life in the tree. So if you match up those two, then in theory it will take. So basically you cut a wedge into the scion, and you wedge it into the initial tree. Then you tape off that new union, and some people will use things like rubber bands, or some people will use zip ties to hold that union together, depending on how hard the tree is. So like Japodocaba is a real hardwood tree, so you could put a zip tie on it and it doesn't choke the tree, whereas some other trees that are less hardwood, you can't do that. But so depending on the tree, you do this process, and you create the V structure, and you take a cut into the parent tree, and then in theory, if the graft takes, you'll see new leaves forming on that scion. They'll push right past the buddy tape, so you don't have to remove it most of the time. So I always remove it from the graft union, but you don't have to right away. That's normally a few months down the line. But so you'll see new leaves emerge, and then that's how you know, like, okay, this is a successful graft. Once it gets 2 flushes of leaves is normally when I declare it a success. Sometimes it'll get some leaves and then die off later. It's not super common, but depending on the tree, some trees it's more common than others. So
Cool.
I've
So
had
it's a graft. Yeah, dude. Thank you for explaining that.
yeah, and then
But
there's side veneer, and there's all kinds of other styles of graft.
Different styles of grafting.
Yeah,
You're saying.
yeah. So basically, the whole process is just merging one tree with another for whatever reason. So
You
there's
take the scion and you have the root stock. That's what you're saying. The Sabra tree you initially want. You have the scion, the red Japodocaba, fruit quicker, and you pretty much mend it. Union, you said.
Yep.
To the cambium layer.
Yep. So, and there, like I said, there's a bunch of different methods, but the reason for grafting is some superior genetics in some way. So some trees might fruit faster. Some might be a preferable fruit because it gets bigger. One might have prettier leaves. There's a multitude of reasons that you would want to graft something.
Yeah.
But then a lot of trees aren't true to seeds. So the seeds, you grow out a seed of a red Japodocaba, it might not be exactly like the red Japodocaba you ate. So Japodocabas are a little more true to seed, but say most mangoes, unless they have a polyembryonic seed, are gonna not be true to the parent plant. It could be cross-pollinated, and that mango not only is gonna take a long time to fruit, but might not taste as good as the parent tree. So you want to graft it in order to get the superior genetics and get a known consistent fruit from it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yep.
Superior genetics.
Yep.
It's pretty simple. But like, what would you say to someone? Because obviously we're not grafting every single tree. We're doing the ones that, like, you know, we want to make sure we get that certain type of fruit. Some stuff, Grumachama cherries come from seed. Barbados cherries, it doesn't matter. But like, what would you say to someone? One time, some guy, he said to me recently, he was like, in like the Hindu religion or something, you're not allowed to cut trees. You're not supposed to cut trees at all.
Oh, wow, interesting.
And like, that's a trip. Like, that's really hardcore, right?
Yeah.
But like, what would you say to someone who's like, hey, we're not supposed to be grafting these trees to like exploit them for fruit in 1 year?
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm looking at it as a way to cultivate and improve selections that get people to grow more of them, and so you're getting rid of, in theory, poorer genetics and incorporating something. So I mean, there's proof of grafted trees that, you know, are, because the scion is 100% genetic clone to the tree it came from. So you could get trees to live hundreds and hundreds of years. So there's proof of these trees that
by
people
keeping
graft
them going
and
with
keep
grafting.
So essentially, you're letting that tree reproduce and grow and do what it wants to do. And you're taking some, you know, unwitting victims of your rootstock trees that aren't as preferable.
But they serve a purpose too.
Yeah,
it's
so
all beautiful.
They're all together, and
I'm with you, man,
because
we're crazy scientists, mad scientists as humans. Like, this is like a really natural though thing. At the end of the day, it's not like, you know, some exploitate. You know, we're like making fruits. Yeah, we're keeping genetics going. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think it ends up being good for everyone because it gets so I mean, like, say citrus. So I don't grow a lot of citrus because of all the disease issues, but the only reason citrus is even really around today at all is because they cloned good varieties that didn't taste sour and terrible. So I mean, oranges weren't traditionally sweet and good fruit. A lot of, if you see like trifoliate orange and a lot of the native original varieties of stuff, they weren't good, and they slowly formed and found superior genetics, and then continued to keep those things going to where we got adequate fruit from things. But the original versions of a lot of fruit weren't as good. People just found and cultivated good ones that were particularly, you know, acceptable for some reason for our own consumption and for the animals around, and helps the ecosystem of everything. I mean, if you have fruit trees, you know all the birds and all the other things that are eating our fruit in addition to us. Yeah.
It's true, man. Yeah. I think a lot of people have opinions and ideas of how it would go, and it's like, how does it actually work? You know, how do we make a bunch of these fruits happen and know, you know, what we're getting?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's a slippery slope, this whole farming game, you know, of like taking care of the land and also production, you know. Like, as far, you know what I'm saying? As far as like, once you get into it, there really is selection, and there's the artistry, and there's the selection, and there's the production, right? Where like, hey, this is the one in our area. Like, maybe we don't plant 1 million of them like we did with citrus and screw it up, but we plant them in biodiverse systems. You know, keep them going.
I think that's something I've seen a lot of with, like, say, persimmons. The main rootstock people use is American persimmons that just grow wild. And so you can take that persimmon rootstock and then graft it with superior varieties, but incorporate it into systems that have other trees. I mean, you see persimmon trees and, like, on our property and neighboring properties, they're everywhere, but it's not like a dense thicket of them. They're just randomly interspersed because of whatever ate their seeds, normally deer, then poop them out, and it ends up wherever it ends up. Wow. And so I think that kind of designing systems like that, I don't want to create, you know, a grove of avocados. I rather, you know, intercrop and have 30 different fruits that you could get from one system versus, planting a monoculture, obviously.
Facts. I love that. Yeah, man. So you have deer pressure.
Definitely have some deer pressure.
Tell people, dude, because I'll plant fruit trees out west where there's deer. Avocados, they'll all be gone.
Decimate. Yeah,
dude,
they're
feel it.
They're tough.
You got to be ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're.
So what do you do? How do you? You have zone barriers.
So I have all of our nursery stock that they like to eat. I have to fence in to protect them from the deer. But a lot of the stuff planted in the ground, once it gets established enough, they don't really mess with it. So they'll mess with stuff when it's small, but once it's bigger, normally not. And I don't mind sharing with them to a certain extent. It's just them killing off trees entirely.
Yeah.
So they'll take like low.
You can't reason with them. Yeah.
They'll just eat and defoliate the whole tree and then kill it, and I don't want that. So I protect it until it gets to the point where I don't need to protect it anymore. When they're rutting and trying to get their antlers off, they'll scrape up against smaller trees normally too. And so once it gets past that point, if they want some fruit, welcome to it. I want nature to thrive. Our farm, pretty much you can find any animal. We see otters all the time. We had a bobcat recently. We have coyotes and all the predators and deer and gopher turtles and everything. So
wow, yeah.
We try to keep it, native ecosystem and let everything live in harmony with us.
Beautiful. That's how it should be, right?
We're not trying to push them away. The animals were there first, and they can stay.
Yeah, but it is hard because we need to get these deer and these bunnies in a room and be like, hey, save some, son.
Yeah. Just wait until it gets bigger.
Yeah.
We'll all share. You don't have to kill the whole tree.
I've just been there. If you know, like they eat the entire thing.
They literally kill my entire trees.
Horses, we need to round them all up and tell them.
Work together and we'll all live.
Bro, we're setting up these systems for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
We're crazy, dude. Think about what we're talking about. Like, this is humans are insane as well. Think about that. Anyways, yeah. But I want thriving ecosystems, exactly. Most humans are even crazier. They want to push all of nature away. But that's not the way either.
It would be less beautiful if I didn't walk out my front door and see deer every day, for sure. So I like seeing animals when I walk outside my house. My daughter loves seeing the deer. My son now is getting into it, but we used to feed them, and I literally could get like within a few feet. They would almost eat out of my hand at one point.
Wow.
It got so close.
The deer?
Yeah, a baby, like I trained it its whole life. Like as soon as it was born, I basically started feeding it, and it like walked right up to me, but then one of the other ones scared it. But it was like 2 feet away. I was like, I knew I was going to get close, and then I ran out of food and stopped feeding them.
That's cool, though.
It was cool.
Yeah, man.
I like nature a lot.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Yeah, that's what it's about, man, It's like you go down the rabbit hole of jaboticabas and all this stuff, but it's not about the, getting the best whatever. It's about, the experiences.
Being in tune with reality, really. As cities aren't where we're supposed to live, the houses and establishments we've created are obviously natural, and people are supposed to be outside. Yeah. So being outside more definitely makes us happier. If you create reasons to be outside, more people would be outside. So having food, people communicating and being part of communities where they go and get food, so like community gardens and that sort of thing, helps get everyone together and enjoy and realize that nature is a part of us. We're a part of nature, and we should all work in harmony and maybe not spend so much time in buildings.
Yeah, it's a good message. Why are we told the opposite, brother? Isn't it interesting? But what is that? Because it always fascinates me too. Cities like Babylon, and then the countryside, like it's like, I don't know. I think it's just also our journey as humans too. Like every 18-year-old, it's like you're not going to tell them not to go to New York City and go have, concerts right downstairs or whatever. I don't know. It's like everything's right there. and it's all exciting, but it's not natural, you know? And then
So,
we come full
yeah.
circle, and I don't know, because I had that experience too.
I laugh about it and think it's funny, but also sad. But I mean, we'll see. This happens fairly regularly. So sell palm trees. They'll go and clear land and
Yes.
just completely destroy everything to build an apartment complex.
All the time.
And then and so they'll take sable palms that are native and destroy the whole thing, and then they buy the trees from us. They replace them with the same trees normally. You think about that. And
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I hope that hits all of you guys at home. That's insane.
I've seen it multiple times. I mean, you think about highways, and what do you see on the side of highways? They plant trees because we want to incorporate nature again. So we get rid of it, and then we realize we need to take it back. We're like, all right, maybe we should hire a landscaper to put some trees here so it looks better. But I see that in cities, and you just kind of think, like, obviously they put parks in and stuff. So at some level, humans know that we should be part of nature, but we continually take away from
Even
it
the
a little
government.
bit. Yeah, everyone all the way down the line realizes it a little bit.
We're going to need more taxes so we can raise money.
So that we can build a park with the same trees that were there before.
Dude, but that's so interesting, man. We push nature away, and then we realize, oh my God, like,
we take
the best
some
part
it
of New
back.
York
Yeah.
City, I asked everybody from New York City, I'm like, what's the best part? Like, man, I really miss Central Park,
Yeah,
where all the trees are, all the,
yeah.
the sunshine is. But anyways, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, the cities, and just bringing back nature, man, somehow in our lives. And if you're in a city, it's okay. You're exactly where you need to be too. But like, I love getting your perspective today, brother.
Yeah, people in cities can find nature too. Like we said, they do build parks. So there's other ways to get out.
Thankfully, yeah.
Fortunately, that is the thing. And if there's not a community garden, make one. Be a part of changing that so that there are more nature spots wherever you live.
That.
So
if you don't have it, create it where you're
make
at.
it. Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing at Froot Farms, dude.
Trying to. So
Okay.
we want to be kind of like a destination for people to learn and inspire people to grow more of their own food. So trying to do kind of like our friends over at Food Forest Everywhere growing in St. Cloud, and they have Galt's Landing, that big property that they're growing so much food and getting and inspiring people to grow more. So we're trying to do the same kind of thing in Christmas and get people to realize your food could grow here, and if you don't need to eat mangoes when they're out of season, you can get mangoes locally. You can eat them from your own backyard, and instead of supporting the established systems that produce the food, elsewhere in other countries, and that's not fresh and sprayed with chemicals, you can grow it yourself. You can, if you don't have land, start up community gardens. There's other people that are interested. Tune into that community, and if it's not there, like I said, build it. We can all take part and get more people to realize how important it is to grow food and what we can do with that and form communities around it.
Dude, I appreciate you. I respect that mission. Thank you, brother. Heck yeah. Dude, I'll let you, we got to probably wrap this thing up, but I want to ask you, how important is it for people to get started like right now? Like, how long does it take time? How much time does it take for this thing?
So definitely, if you want smaller trees, start now. If someone wants some of the big stuff,
Shoot, I gotta step my stuff up, dude. You got me thinking.
Yeah,
sell 25s and 45 gallons.
You got some big stuff, then maybe you can start a few months from now. Otherwise, now's the time
to plan.
It's best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time's today, kind of deal.
That's it, bro.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I'm still using established oaks that my uncle planted 20 years ago for incorporating our systems, and I use that I have an entire section of the nursery under an oak canopy of all trees that my uncle planted. So, it will bring abundance, and in several years, that might be my kids with the fruit trees we plant. They might be over there eating all the figs and crazy Japotacaba varieties that no one's ever heard of, and all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. How many kids you got?
I have two.
They like the fruits?
my daughter likes most fruits. The best thing is she hates Japotacaba. So the first time I got them for her, I was like, "You want to try this?" And she was all into it. And then she immediately spit it on the floor and said, "Yuck!" And I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like I almost want to grow this more because I know I can actually enjoy them. The kids will take everything from you, so they want all my other snacks. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can grow this and get it and actually eat it myself.
That's awesome, dude. I'd love to come up there and check it out. Maybe get some
absolutely.
trees, man. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share with the people before we go? It's been awesome, man. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. No, I think that's pretty much it. If people are interested in starting to grow food, if you don't know, there's, abundance of resources all over the place. Obviously, there's plenty of people that make awesome YouTube videos and plenty of content to find and books to read and whatnot. But the best way to start anything is to try. So if you have a condo or an apartment, get a tree that can live on your patio. If you have a bunch of space, start with something, even if it's one little tree for now, but get interested and see what it's like to actually grow your own food. And then I think people will really want to, step it up and keep going. That's sort of how we probably all went down the rabbit hole.
That's right. We all started somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we see the progress and we're like, whoa, that's possible.
Yeah, and there's, like I said, there's plenty of people. If people want to reach out to me, if they have questions about stuff, they can feel free to do so.
Cool.
I'm not an expert on anything, but I do like grafting Japotacaba. So.
That was cool, man. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah, Andrew. Thanks for coming on. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time, guys. Peace.
We're in the garden. It's existential.